Hi everyone, Chris here from IELTS Advantage with another success story from our VIP course. Today we have Emma who's going to share her success with you guys. So Emma, let's start off just by you introducing yourself to everyone.
Well, I'm actually a native English speaker and I come from South Africa, but with a lot of immigration and things, South Africa is not qualified as an English speaking country. So that is why I'm doing IELTS to go over to Australia eventually. And I soon discovered it was quite stressful.
Yes, a lot of native English speakers actually have to do the test to move to Australia, because Australia are so strict with their immigration. So we
Mm.
actually have a surprising number of native English speak. I was really surprised that any native English speaker would join the course, but as you said before this video, a lot of them just contact us and just go like, I want you just to make this easier for me. It's a lot of information and a lot of stuff
Yeah,
to so yeah, even for native English speakers, it is good to just have a bit of organization, feedback, things like that.
yeah. That structure was so key.
Yeah,
Yeah.
excellent. So can you tell everyone a little bit about the journey that you went on? Like how many times did you do the test? What scores were you getting? That type of thing?
Well, first of all, I did the complete wrong thing and I booked the test. And then I thought, oh no, I'm in over my head. I better get some help. And I signed up for IELTS Advantage. I did the free course at first and I thought, oh no, this is pretty good. And I wanted some more feedback and things on my writing. I only took the test once, luckily, but I put in a lot of hours and took your advice to heart. Woke up early in the morning, studying at 4:30 a.m. to try and get through the course content, and I managed to get through it in a month. But it was really, really, really difficult. So the key advice is to follow Chris's advice and to not book your test until you are ready. It was quite stressful. A few days before my course, I submitted some writing for reflection and I got a 6.5 and it was just too low for the score that I needed for my immigration and all of that. So it was quite stressful and I would recommend
Just
not
to
booking.
reiterate, we do not recommend booking the test before before you join the course. Um, so
Yeah.
but it was useful, it's better to get that 6.5, well, 3 days, even though it's very stressful and you're like, "Ugh," it's not a nice thing to happen, but it's better than getting the score, 2 weeks after and going like, and then you have to go through the whole process again. Um,
Absolutely.
so
And
was
everyone was so the advice that I got was so professional on how I can improve. It was so succinct and exact, and I knew exactly how I could do it and what I needed to work on. And I was able to pick out the points because you gave a whole lot of examples. Those were also so useful in just getting into the tone of that academic writing, because the academic writing was the most difficult part for me.
yeah,
Even though I'm busy studying my master's at the moment and I'm writing essays like you cannot believe, the way else the way they want you to write is
mhm,
so specific. And if you don't know the structure, which you guys teach so well, and in all of those examples it's reiterated and you can pick up how it goes, you're just going to fall short.
yeah.
And yeah, it's really, really tricky.
And what were your final scores? What scores did you get?
Well, the listening, I got a 9. Reading, I got an 8.5. Writing, I got a 7.5. Only needed a 7, so I was really happy with that. Speaking a 9, and I got an overall 8.5. Yeah,
Excellent. Excellent. So you went from 6.5 to 7.5
yeah, yeah.
in your writing. So that was good. So I don't think we'll focus too much on listening or reading or speaking
Mm,
because you're
mm.
you're you're great with those things. Um
I don't know, Chris. I was so nervous with the speaking.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
did
no, it is
I did my
daunting.
first two. I did two tests, the online test, just because I had them with the course. It was quite comforting
Yeah,
actually to
yeah.
have all of that extra feedback and things. And it was really useful because the first time I did it, I couldn't speak for 2 minutes about a topic. And they just reminded me of, the tips and where to go back and to look. And it was so helpful because in my actual test, I think he chose some really difficult questions, and I just had to babble about nothing. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, I recently did the real test just because I think it's important if you're teaching it to do it and experience it. I wanted to experience the computer based one, but I actually got one of our teachers to do a mock speaking test with me because you teach something and you might get a little bit complacent about it, and as you just said, all I wanted was that just comfort of them saying, that's fine, because
yeah,
what you don't want is to go into the test and not perform at the level you should perform because of nerves and second guessing yourself and things like, and that can happen to anybody. Um,
mm,
I was actually, I did the listening test and I got a 9, but the first question I was daydreaming and I got and I just I must have got it right because I got about 9, but I just was thinking of something completely different, and I
yeah.
missed. It was a car registration, and I missed it. So it just shows you, even as an IELTS teacher, just these things that are nothing to do with English can come
Mm.
in and ruin your your test if you don't.
Absolutely. And you know what? Just going through the motions and covering all of that content, I found was so important because doing the computer test, I don't know what it's like doing the written test, but it's long. It
Yeah.
is really,
No.
really long. And you've got to be on your toes. The
Yeah.
writing is last.
Yeah.
Listening is first, I
Yeah.
think. I can't remember.
Listening, then reading, then writing, then
Yeah.
speaking. Yeah.
But thank goodness you guys had all that content, and I'd listened to it before and gone through it. And even with my speaking test, I just, before going in, I just listened to a few of your examples. So having that content there
Yeah.
is so, so helpful, and just having it at your fingertips, just going before, when you have those jitters and everything. I know you said not to do it, but it just gets
I made
gets me.
the silly mistake of, I did my test in Dublin, and Dublin has great bars, and my favorite drink in the world is Guinness, and you get the best Guinness in the world is in Dublin. So I went out and had like 6 pints of Guinness the
Oh.
night before, and I was like halfway through the reading test, and I was like, oh my god, like, I can't concentrate. So and that was me as a native English speaker.
Yeah.
I don't recommend drinking before the test, but
Yeah.
it just shows you that focus and energy and stress, they all play a part in contributing to your score. Um,
Absolutely.
so when you were going through the course, or when we give you 6.5 a few days before your test, what were your key weaknesses? What were the key things that were stopping you getting a higher score?
So I found out that I actually wasn't quite good at interpreting graphs.
Mm.
So I really did struggle to find the key trends.
Yeah.
So that was really, really helpful to have that advice, because it helped me to focus how to interpret the graphs and to really look for those key things. What I thought was key was actually not the main general trend. Yes, it was a spike here and a spike there, but if I thought like an examiner, which is also something that one of your modules in the course, um, I could see actually, okay, this is the kind of thing they're asking for. And there were a few things I sort of forgot to mention or speak as much about certain bits of data, and to give equal importance to all of those.
Mhm.
So it's so, so much to think about. And you think, oh my goodness, okay, I've written so much and my grammar seems okay. I mean, it's definitely never perfect. But actually, you could completely miss the mark. So I found that feedback so, so helpful for the writing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, it surprises me how many people do this, but they, like, if you look at the distribution of submissions that we get on the VIP course for writing, I think
Mm.
about 80 to 90% of them are task 2, which indicates that a lot of people don't even consider task 1. And what happens is a lot of people do the test and they get a low score and they assume that the problem is task 2, when it could
Mm.
easily be task 1. And
Yeah.
so not a lot of people really focus on task 1, and it's because people believe that it's not worth as much, but it's worth a third. What I always say, if I went in and took a third of the money from your bank account, would you notice it? Like, it's
Absolutely.
a very large
Yeah.
proportion.
Mm.
But people are like, no, it's not worth that much, but it really is. Like, you could get you could be getting a band 7.5 or 8 in task 2, but you could be getting a band 5, 5.5 in task 1 because you completely misinterpret the data.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give someone who's struggling with task 1 academic, if they were having trouble interpreting graphs and charts and things like that?
Definitely take your advice and take action. Take more action. I feel like I could have gotten a better score if I had had a little bit more time and
Mhm.
if I had submitted more writing pieces. And I was sort of in two minds of, oh my goodness, I'm absolutely going to fail this test. Maybe I should keep a few, um, what do you call them? Paper reviews for my the second time I'm going to have to do it, which is a very pessimistic way of looking at it. And I should have just gone guns blazing and just submitted a whole lot more, because you really do learn by practicing. And I feel like I could have had a little bit more feedback
Yeah.
having submitted a few more. And it's a little bit difficult because I put so much pressure on myself time wise, but it would have been really beneficial to have spaced it out and done sort of one a week,
Mhm.
taking on that feedback, doing some practice, reading other examples. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can actually learn more from task 1 feedback than you can from task 2 feedback, because
Mm,
task 2, there are, 50 different correct ideas. Like you could have 50 different ideas and still get a good score. But with
mm,
task 1, there's only one real key trend or two or three real key trends. So if you get feedback, your key trend was wrong, you can look at it and then go, oh, okay. And then, so the more
mm.
feedback you get on task 1, and someone watching this, you can either get a good teacher to help you with that, or if you have reliable sample essays for task 1, you can use those. So what you can do is get some practice questions, try and pick out the key things, and then compare that with a good sample, but make sure your sample is good, because if your sample is wrong, then feedback will be wrong.
Yeah, your
But
samples were really, really helpful in getting the tone right as well. And
yeah.
just seeing the pattern in how to write it as well,
Mhm.
having, the overview and the specific keywords and saying overall, all of those little tips and tricks. Yeah.
So if you were to give yourself advice, like 6 months ago, imagine you can talk to yourself 6 months ago. What advice would you give yourself about preparing for the test?
Give yourself time. Um, don't leave anything out. Make sure you cover all the bases. I would have thought that the reading was a no brainer. I am able to answer a lot of comprehensions and read quite critically, but they ask things in very, very tricky ways. So you need to be very, very mindful of the question that they ask. So are they asking for one or two words? You need to be very, very clear on that. And they do use a lot of synonyms for things. So just be very, very aware when doing the reading task.
Mhm.
Um, Doing that. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's why like a lot of native English speakers actually get a lower score, for example, on the reading test or the listening test. It's not because their English is bad. It's because they don't read the instructions, or because it says only have one word, or no more than two, and they're like quite arrogant because they're like, oh, I'm a native English speaker, and they go in and they just go through it, and then they get their scores. They want you to do what they tell you to do in a very
And I noticed for a lot of the answer was in fact a two-word answer, and you
yeah,
had to change it into
yeah,
a one-word answer.
yeah.
So there's so many little things that you need to be mindful of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I was doing the test, I think only one person in the test center was a non-native English speaker. It was all native English
Oh
speakers,
wow.
because in Dublin there's a lot of tech companies like Google and Facebook and YouTube are all
Mhm.
headquartered there. So you get a lot of people from around the world who need to move to Ireland and get their IELTS test.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of Americans and Canadians, and these are all people working for Google and Facebook. And after the test, they were like, they were like, what? So as I always say, the IELTS test is not just an English test. It's an English test plus a skills test plus a
Yeah.
not, a focus test, a ability to deal with stress test. There's a lot of different things you need to cover. But if you cover
Absolutely.
those, you'll get the score that you need. You know.
I felt very out of place being the only native English speaker in
I
my
bet you
testing
weren't. I
center.
bet you weren't.
Yeah, there was a little 12-year-old boy next to me, and I thought, how on earth do you know what some of these words mean? These are hard, even for me. So, yeah,
That's
wild.
child cruelty, making a 12-year-old do the IELTS test.
Yeah, but in Hong Kong, everyone has to do it to go and go to boarding schools and things overseas. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Right.
Mm.
Oh, terrible. Anyway, thank you so much, Emma, for sharing your experience. I know not just for non-native English speakers, but native English
Mm,
speakers doing the test. I think this will be really, really helpful for them. And if you need any help in the future or any advice, feel free to keep in
thanks,
touch
Chris.
if you need
Yeah,
it.
I must say I felt far more at ease having had a little bit of training from you guys. And yeah, my only wish is that I had not
More
booked
time.
it time. But
All
yeah,
right.
all
Thank you so
good.
much, Emma, and best
Yes.
of luck in the future. Thanks. Hey, Chris here again. Hopefully you enjoyed that success story video. That student was part of our IELTS VIP course. And on that course, we show students exactly where they're going wrong and exactly what to do to get the score that they need. And we give them all the help and support that they need in order to get a 7, 8, or even 9 in their IELTS test. Now, we only work with a really, really small number of students. Because of the level of help and feedback and support that we give students, we can only work with a very, very small number of them. But we also have more success stories than any other online or offline course in the world, which has created a huge amount of demand for our course. So we're the only course in the world, I believe, that has a very, very, very long waiting list. If you want to join that waiting list, all you have to do is just click here and you'll be able to add your name, add your email address, and then when one of our students becomes successful and leaves the course, the next position can be for you. Hopefully see you in there. Bye-bye.